1. Over a couple of summers, I worked for an overnight summer camp program for a local college. This program specializes in teaching kids technical skills, i.e. programming, robotics, etc. My job was to plan, create, and instruct a week-long course based on a specific technology. During the day, we would focus on teaching, while we did typical summer camp stuff during the night. For those who haven't worked at a camp, typically the industry standard is to be paid at a weekly rate. The hours working can vary wildly between whether or not one worked overnight on a certain day or was helping with camp duties. Thus, a per-week rate simplifies the process. People who worked overnights were paid a premium, but everyone considered the pay fair for a week's work. For my program, I was tasked with teaching a class about a set of hardware. Every student would get to take this hardware home with them at the end of the week. So in the class, we would set up the hardware, show off some cool things they can do with it, and then let them loose at the end of the week to use the hardware. The issue is the hardware was the antithesis of reliable. Each day, a quarter of the class's new hardware would break down. There were a couple parts in the hardware that had a 1 in 2 chance of failing within a couple hours of installation. If a student had lucked out with perfect hardware, they were golden. However, many would have to have their hardware parts cycled out multiple times until it would be consistently working. By the end of each program, we were usually able to ensure that the student's hardware would be in reliably working fashion for them to take home. However, that assurance did not come without sacrifice. Every night I had off, every break I was given, every moment I could spare was spent in the classroom working on the various non-functioning hardware. This hardware was necessary for me to be able to teach the class. At the end of the program, the parents and the students expected the hardware to be perfectly functioning by the end of the week. Parents could not just send the hardware back for repairs, you know. Thus, I understood that it was my responsibility to spend my free time fixing the hardware. After all, I was getting paid for a week's work. It wasn't too bad to fiddle with cables in an air-conditioned room away from the kids. However, I won't sugarcoat and say that it wasn't a frustrating experience. But I was able to make it work, and the parents always left the program satisfied with what their child brought home. In addition, I was not the only one doing things for the camp outside of working for the kids. There were various activities that the counselors worked on and helped out with that would make camp more exciting and fun. This involved preparing pranks, skits, activities, or even just briefly joining an on-duty night counselor's activity to lighten the load. Even if you were not on duty during the night, you were usually doing something for the camp. This involvement helped create a fun and engaging camp experience for both campers and counselors. These summers were some of the most enjoyable and rewarding experiences I have ever had. However, going into what would become my final season, some major changes were made. The administration announced that for the next season, we would be getting paid on an hourly rate. This move immediately came off as weird to most of us. I mean, weekly rates have always been the industry standard at every camp job I worked before. There was a rumor that one of the new guys quit last year, complained that he was getting ripped off for how many hours they worked, but no one could prove if the rumor was true. Quick aside, weekly rates when divided by hours worked can look like a ripoff. But this is no industry secret. You're getting paid to hang out with kids. Most of the time it's pretty laid back. Regardless, one's weekly take is still higher than what one would make at a 40-hour minimum wage job. Either way, our director, who reports to the administration, but is typically on our side, and handles the in-the-moment personnel and client issues, assured us by showing that the hourly rate is higher than what the weekly rate was, considering our hours. I like money, so I was excited to finally get a pay rise going into the new season. First day of the season was pretty typical on how first days go. I had the first night off, so I was preparing myself to fix the Mount Kilimanjaro of hardware already on my desk. During training, they were instructing us that we needed to clock out at 5 if we weren't working at night. Now, that is typically when those who have off are let free. However, since everyone usually did something for the camp during their nights off, we figured that we were supposed to just punch out whenever we were done with our tasks. No one actually thought that they expected us to stop working at 5. Well, 5:12 comes, and I am still just cleaning up my room from the day, when, for some reason, an admin walks in. Admin: "What are you doing?" Me: "Oh, just cleaning up." Then I got to... Admin: "Did you clock out?" Me: "Well, no, I still..." Admin: "You must clock out at 5. A switch flipped inside my brain at that moment. You see, I was no longer being paid for a week's work. I was getting paid for how many hours I worked, and the administration would not allow me to go over their allotted hours. My mentality changed immediately. So I responded, me: "Okay, sounds good." I leave the room as is and lock the door. Admin: "Don't do it again or you'll be written up." It didn't take long for us to realize that was a veiled scheme for the administration to cut everyone's pay. By offering a higher hourly rate than what we got before, they were able to convince most of the veterans to come back thinking they were getting a raise, when actually we were forced to work less hours. Everyone's weekly take was significantly less than what they were in previous years. In addition, since it was a flat hourly rate, overnight counselors made twice as much as those who did not, even though the overnight gig requires significantly less focus, preparation, and effort compared to the day programs. Everyone was pissed. It soon became the norm that once their shift ended, they were done for the day. Gone are the prepared skits and activities. Those who had their nights off simply retreated to their room or went out. We weren't getting paid for a week's work, so why bother making it special? In the case of my class, that meant I stopped repairing hardware in my free time. I then only repaired hardware during class periods. This caused the class to slow to a halt. By the end of the first program, my class was only able to get through about half of the material, and 20% of students had to go home with non-functioning hardware. I felt terrible, I genuinely did. But what could I do? Camp received some pretty rotten emails from those parents that week, but everyone stood up for me knowing how much time was taken from me to fix. That's pretty much how much of that summer went. The magic of camp was lost, and in its place were increasingly upset parents. Most of the veterans, including all directors and leads, left at the end of the summer. The camp still continued on, but for my friends and I, it was no longer the place that was pretty all right for a week's work. 2. Starring popular girl, she's mean. Managers, mostly cool. Me as shop guy, mostly a dickhead, but chill. When I was a younger man, I had my first job at a kids' play palace. Think Chuck E. Cheese, but with better ball pits, and really cool tubes and slides, and a huge arcade room. This place was amazing, and it was huge. Picture the size of a supermarket. The only downside was that there was this really pretty and popular girl that loved to make my and other people's lives miserable. Why? I don't know. Here's my story of revenge. As a boy of 15, I was a pretty easygoing kid, and the managers liked me. So they gave me one of the coolest jobs you could get at this place. I was assigned to the arcade room. Now, this was not a room, more like the size of a small ranch house. But since it was my first job, I normally followed the job rules. But from time to time, I broke them. All a fellow employee had to do was ask. Which brings us to why I sought revenge on the aforementioned girl to begin with. In the game room, we had prizes and candy, all sorts of cool stuff. We also had these claw machines that were filled with really primo candy and snacks. Now, I was always entrusted with the keys to this machine, mainly because I did a good job and kept it stocked. But as I said before, when a fellow ball pit soldier in arms asked me to grab them a sweet treat, I always obliged. I was and still am friendly like that. The girl that worked at the store was pretty and popular, and most of all, she knew it. She was never nice to people unless they were a manager or popular like she was. She would trash talk, make fun of people, purposely get out of doing the kids' birthday parties. They were a pain. Just in general, an unpleasant person all around. Well, one day, on her day off mind you, she and her little minions come into the store. Can't quite remember what for. but I think it was because she needed to pick up her paycheck. Her and her friends came over to the game room, and I was busy dealing with the kids that were redeeming their tickets for some cool prizes. Popular Girl walks right up to me, in a state, and demands the keys to the claw machine that had all of the snacks in it. I explained that I'm with people and to hold on a second. She was not pleased by this one bit, and again demanded the keys. I again explained she's gonna have to wait, period. This vexed her greatly. I kept the keys normally in my pants pocket, but today I had them in my uniform shirt pocket. Popular Girl noticed this and went to grab them out of my pocket, and I grabbed her hand as she was yanking them out. This girl was so spiteful and in need of candy that she dug her nails into my hand and ripped the shirt pocket a bit. So, not wanting to make a scene in front of the kids, and her nails digging in my skin, I let go. She and her friends walked over and took a bunch of stuff from the machine. I was fuming. I can still remember the look on her face as she walked back, a smirk, the stick of a lollipop hanging out of her mouth that she had just taken. And then the words, "Here you go. You can have your keys back. We don't need them anymore." Laughter. Now I know what you're thinking. She's fired. Talk to the manager. Have him look at the security tapes. Scream at her. I did what I could after she left, when I didn't have kids and adults around me. The manager did check the tape, couldn't see anything that she did, so nothing was done. I was upset, but as a 15-year-old guy, what was I gonna do? Hit her? Have a screaming match? No. I figured I'd find my spot one day, and then I would have my revenge. In my head as a teen it was more like, "Bitch, you are going down." About 2 months later, my opportunity for revenge came. I played it cool after the game room incident. I acted indifferent to her. Didn't actively speak with her, but did when we had to have words about some work-related thing. At this job, mainly filled with teenagers, they have a very strict policy of if you no-call, no-show, you are fired, period. Unless grandma or you dies, there was no valid excuse. So when Popular Girl came up to me in the break room and started speaking with me about a favor she needed, the wheels in my head started spinning. She wanted to go to a friend's party that Friday night. Cool, sounds like fun, I thought. But she was in a quandary about what to do, as she worked from 4 to close, around 10:30, and I just so happened to have that day off. She asked me if I had plans. Of course I didn't. She asked me if I could cover her shift. Of course I could, and would. I could use the money. I was making $4.25 an hour. Fuck, I'm old. She asked me if I would clear it with management for her. Of course I would do that. No worries. Go have your fun, Popular Girl. You are owed a little bit of fun every now and then. Well, as you can imagine, I didn't clear it with management. I didn't tell a soul. And I didn't come into work on Friday night. Cut to Saturday afternoon when I worked 12 to 8. I clock in and get called into the office right away. Manager: "Photo guy, were you supposed to cover a shift for Popular Girl and forget?" Photo guy: "No, sir. I was busy on Friday night. I didn't tell her I would cover her shift. And if I had, I would have made sure the shift pickup was okay with you guys first." Wait, did she say I would pick up her shift? Manager: "Okay, thanks for letting us know." Photo guy: "Am I in trouble or something? Did I do something wrong? I don't want to get people mad at me."
Manager: No, you're fine. Don't worry about it."
Needless to say, there were no witnesses to her asking or even speaking with me. No texts or emails. Because again, I'm old, and we didn't have that back then. So they didn't have any proof other than her word versus my word. And why would I lie? She was fired that same day. I saw her leaving with some red eyes and sad goodbyes from her popular friends. Next time, if you want some candy or a tasty snack or a lollipop to suck on, just ask. And if I'm busy, just wait. I got you fired, Popular Girl. So, suck on that instead. 3. Was working for a financial firm, 1,800 employees with a sales force of 200. I was one of the salesmen. We had our annual meeting in April. It was a great affair. Most of the employees attended, and the CEO gave a big speech about how the previous year was the best in the company's history. Blah blah blah. The next month, May, we each submitted memos basically justifying what we qualified for, or should qualify for bonuses at the end of June. I wrote mine out and explained the sales growth in my territory over the previous 12 months, and what percentage my sales were out of last year's total sales. Coming off the company's best year ever, it should have been a slam dunk, right? All of us were excited about how much we'd have coming in June. June rolls around and my bonus is 0. 0. But it's not just me, it's all over the sales floor. Less than 20% of the sales force got bonuses. And holy shit, everyone was pissed. All the supervisors were dealing with angry subordinates. The sales manager was too, and even the VP and director and above him. Everyone was furious and insubordinate. Angry, accusatory emails were flying, and the company was facing mutiny. It got worse when it came out that the supervisors were offered bonuses that they could determine for themselves. Most of them took them, but a couple, knowing their subordinates wouldn't be getting anything, refused. My supervisor took his. When it came out, he tried to explain it to his sales team about how he felt it was justified and how hard he worked. He ended up with people screaming at him about how they felt the same and they didn't get jack shit. So for a week or so, things on the floor came to a stop. A lot of people just didn't show up, and the ones that did were angry. I came in and started reading Monster.com ads at my desk. I also stopped selling anything, or answering my phone. When confronted by my boss, I told him that as soon as I got the bonus my sales justified, I'd start working again. Until then, I'd be coming in late, reading and responding to want ads, and leaving early. He could expect me to keep that up until I found another job or was fired. The following day, I was sent to the regional sales manager's office. She said she'd heard about my work stoppage and asked me to explain myself. I told her that if she'd heard about it from my supervisor, then she already knew why I wasn't working, and I didn't need to explain it again. She tried buddying up to me, being friendly, then being stern, then being angry. I kept my composure and told her that the longer the company held out on my bonus, the longer it was going to miss out on sales from my territory. I then gave her my average daily amount of sales from the previous year, quantified what the total loss would be for a week of me not selling, and how much cheaper it would be to just pay me the money I was owed and get me back to selling. Then I thanked her for her time and told her I'd be leaving work as soon as I left her office, and I did. The following day I came in, checked my emails, some of which were farewell emails from co-workers who quit over their stolen bonuses, and sat on Monster.com until I was told to go to the office of the National Sales Manager. He's the gatekeeper. He's in charge of all 200 of us. He told me he understood that I was upset and could see why. I asked him if withholding the bonuses from 80% of his sales force was his idea or someone else's. He didn't answer. He did tell me that I would be getting a check on Monday, and could I please go back to work now. I told him I'd be going back to my desk, but work wouldn't start until the check was in my hand. When I went back and checked my emails, yep, more defections. The next day an email went out to the entire sales force. Management had taken a look at the numbers, re-evaluated the financials, and determined that June bonuses would be issued shortly. The email also apologized for the delay and reminded us that as salesmen we were the core of the company, and our hard work was appreciated. I also received another email, this time from the National Sales Manager, who told me bonuses were scheduled for Monday. He'd be walking my check to my desk the following day. The following day I showed up, sat down, and shortly afterwards the National Sales Manager walked on up and handed me my bonus check. I thanked him, and handed him my resignation effective immediately. In my resignation letter I requested that a check for my unused vacation time please be cut and given to me before I left the building. When he finished reading it, I told him I'd clean out my desk while I waited for the vacation check. While I was doing that, one of my co-workers also resigned effective immediately. We were walked out at the same time and ended up getting drunk at the bar across the street. I learned later from co-workers that remained that even though the company issued the bonuses, they lost about 20% of the sales force in the following 2 months. Gotta love corporate greed. Edit. Since I didn't make it clear, the money was referred to in all the paperwork as a bonus. However, it was compensation based on a predetermined formula. You sell X amount, you get X bonus. You sell Y amount, you get Y bonus. It wasn't one amount. It was set at different tiers. It was a predetermined formula in black and white. Everyone on the sales floor had a copy. If you didn't make your bonus, you knew exactly why and by what amount you missed it. The company had been around for over 30 years by then, and was known for generous compensation, and had never before played games with bonuses or payments. 4. This story takes place back when I was in my teens, around 17. I was working at Subway. I'm sure most of you are familiar with what is required as an employee, so I'll skip that. My manager was a decent individual. Let's call her T. Now, T wanted to make sure that the customers were as pleased as possible. You achieve this by being as polite and smile as much as possible, based on T's perspective. The mentality that the customer is always right. In some ways, this was good. In other ways, this was bad. This story revolves around it being bad. We have a policy that cops get an at-cost discount for the food they order at Subway. You are talking about $1.50 for a foot-long sub. I don't know what it would cost now, but 15 years ago it was cheap. With this in mind, we get the same group of cops who come in every day, same time, 4 p.m. It's about 3:50 p.m. Enter John. John was real drunk. I mean barely walk kinda drunk. OP. Hello, sir. Welcome to Subway. What can I get for you? John.
Get me what?
OP. We have many things available if you... John.
Don't interrupt me, boy. I was talking. You think kids are the reason America's going to hell?
Now, I have been warned by T that I will be punished or even fired if I don't give the absolute best customer service no matter what. OP. Of course, sir. I just can't help it. I'm the devil's weapon. I gesture my hand in a good old boy or good job. John.
Good you see that, boy. Learn some respect. Give me a sandwich.
OP. Of course, sir. What kind? John.
You're retarded? There is only one kind. It's called the Subway sandwich.
I look at the clock. It's 3:55. This guy is driving me insane. I know if the cops come in, they will deal with him. I just need to waste his time. OP. Of course, sir. I forget that I'm causing America to go to hell. I can't help but just be trouble. John laughs out loud.
You kids are so stupid you can't even deny it.
I pretend to laugh, bulging my eyes out like some kind of crazed killer, my face turning red as I force laughter louder and louder till he stops. OP, let me start working on that Subway sandwich for you. I look at the clock and see it's 3:59, one more minute. I start to make the sandwich, making as much eye contact as I can, with the most absurd white-faced smile I can. John.
You got a staring problem, boy? I don't like how you're looking at me. Wipe that smile off your thin face.
P. Sir, I can't. I must provide the happiest smile to ensure you feel satisfied with our service. I bust my face even wider than before, even exaggerating my eyebrows like I'm a clown. All the while I'm making a club sandwich, double meat chicken breast, put shredded cheese on it, then placing it in the toaster, never removing eye contact. The toaster beeps. I pull down, slide the tray in, and place it on the counter, all in one smooth motion. John.
I said to stop effing looking at me. I'll fucking cut you if you don't stop.
OP, of course, sir. Customer service is important to me. I don't want you to think I would do anything to hinder your ability to enjoy your time here. I put on lettuce, tomatoes, salt, pepper, oregano, single line of mayo, single line of ranch. Fold it up, cut it in half, then wrap it. The door opens, bell rings, and in comes the cops. John doesn't even notice them come in.
It's about effing time you finish giving me my damn sandwich, you white trash piece of shit.
OP. Oh, I'm sorry, sir. This isn't your sandwich. This is mine. Oh my god. In fact, it's my favorite Subway sandwich. I unwrap it in front of him and take a huge bite. He grabs me by the arm and tries to pull me over the counter. John.
I'm gonna cut you, boy.
The cops jump right in and pin him down. Police. OP, what's going on here? I explain what has transpired. They decided to charge him with public intoxication. He's arrested and put into the car. The officers return. I make them their sandwich. They sit and eat there for 45 minutes before they take him to the station. 5. A little bit of background first. My 8th grade year of middle school, we had one of our teachers leave at the very beginning of the year to go teach at another district. So the school's administration had to find a replacement in very little time. And about 2 weeks into the school year, they hired a teacher I'll call Ms. E. Immediately, she gave off a vibe that screamed, "I'm only nice when my boss is in the room." The next few months went by, and the majority of the students who had her as a teacher all agreed that she had no idea how to teach. Nor did she make any effort to show the students some respect. I'm talking daily incidents of her picking on the class, complaining about not getting work done, and then wasting 20 minutes of class time while complaining. Ms. E was also the type of teacher to pick favorites, and pick on kids she didn't like as much. She absolutely hated me, as I often made it a point to start messing with her during class after realizing what kind of person she really was. Stuff like getting a whole group of people to move their desk an inch forward every few seconds. We also got access to her in-class phone number, which we spent a lot of time calling her on, just to see her reaction. A whole lot of other incidents occurred in that class, which would tell some great stories, but I'll keep this short since it's already pretty lengthy. In May of that year, we were finishing a unit on a book and took a test on it. The test was created by Ms. E and had a lot of errors in it. Some of the test questions referred to very small details of the book, or contradictory story pieces that made no sense. We got the test back about a week later, with the highest grade in the class being a 70%. This clearly isn't right, so a few of us went to talk to her about it, even showing evidence from the book that some of the questions that were wrong happened to be right, or there were 2 answers, etc. Ms. E refused to listen to any of us, and told all of us to sit down. A group of about 5 people, including me. She got up and went on about how she felt, word for word, personally attacked and undermined, and had something made up about how the 2 points don't matter when our concern was focused on the whole test. Remember how she referenced being personally attacked? The next thing she starts talking about is my personal grade on it, and how I went to her and attacked her about my grade. This went on for a while, mainly back and forth between me and her for about 2 days. At times people would speak up and agree or add to something I would say, but in the end it turned out to be a debate between Ms. E and I. So what did we do? After the first day, as soon as I got home, I turned on my computer, opened Gmail, and wrote about 4 pages worth of description and complaints to our principal and vice principal. I was brought down to the office the next day, where I was given a detention written by Ms. E, given for insubordination, intrusive undermining, and disrupting instruction. Total bullshit. So I told him I wasn't going. He asked me to verify most of the information, and elaborate on some of the incidents I described. His idea was to have me form a group of all the people involved, and have us write a list of complaints and incidents from the class, and if everything cleared up, I'd get off without punishment. As a group of about 10 students, we wrote 17 pages of grievances and evidence that Ms. E was clearly not fit for teaching middle school students. The principals read all of it at once, and for the next week, instead of class time, we worked on other classes while the principals interviewed everyone in the class, including Ms. E. After it was all over, Ms. E was required to give a formal apology, where she spouted out some fake tears and a bullshit written-up apology that ignored the majority of the problems we were actually referring to. My detention was waived, and next year she was no longer teaching in our school district. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to... I was gonna say 3 True Scary Stories. That story in the camp kind of threw me a little there. I kept expecting Jason to show up, but he never did. He never usually lets me down, but he never did. Anyway, thank you very much for listening to Revenge is Ice Cream. Number 9? Yes, it is. It's number 9. Okay. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Anyway, I just want to say I hope you're all having a nice weekend. You're having oodles of fun, whatever you may be doing. And I'm going to head off for now, because it's weekend time and it's time for me to try and relax. So until next time, thank you very much for listening. And take very good care of yourselves.